Hey everyone, welcome to Highly Unlikely with Josh and Jenaye. We have some really special guests with us today. We have Annika Happett and Alicia Weston, and you're gonna hear why they're here. We're gonna get into it. But we're just gonna get started with the question of the day, right?
Yeah, Annika and Alicia both serve on our staff team
Yes.
at our church and in great roles where they just fit hand in glove. It's awesome. And so we're grateful for you guys and for the gifts God's given you. And also, I just love both your husbands a lot too. So great
Well,
families.
I love you.
You do
I love
too.
you both. I mean, I could have said that, babe. Man,
You could have said what?
I could have said all that.
You could have said you love our husbands?
No, like about your staff roles.
Oh, I
I've been
just think
excited
people didn't know they were on
to
staff.
get more staff members on the podcast.
Yeah.
I think we feel like we have the best team in the world. And so to get to share them with everyone is exciting.
Yeah, it's awesome.
It's going to be a great conversation.
Okay, it's a good question,
All right.
especially this time of year in North Dakota. Would you rather be really hot or really cold?
Really cold, hands down.
Jenaye, that's true.
It snowed yesterday and I'm wearing sandals.
Oh my God.
I would rather be very cold.
I would rather be really hot, for sure. So I'm like the complete opposite.
Yeah, I would way rather be hot. I hate being cold.
No, I've experienced the hot of hot, and I just don't want to do that again. So I would go with cold.
With being too hot, so hot, there comes a point where you can't shed any more layers.
Yes,
You can always add more layers.
You can't take your skin off.
And since nudity is not allowed
No.
places, I just don't like being hot.
Exactly.
Well, I'll look forward to seeing you
No.
in a ski mask this winter as you cover all of your skin.
I will. Oh, that's hilarious.
No way, not me.
Okay.
It is. We're in the changing of the seasons here in North Dakota.
We
so
are.
it's happening right
Yes. You can embrace it.
now. Yeah.
Well, we're talking about a conversation or a topic today that's really near and dear to our hearts, but foster care in general, and just going to dig into foster care and the church's role in it, and really how we believe. I really believe the Lily Initiative in particular is a solution that the global church could use.
Yeah.
And I think it could be the solution and a solution in eradicating the need in foster care and even the burnout and all those things. But
Yeah.
we're going to get into that.
Why don't you guys introduce yourselves, tell everybody about your families, and kind of what your role is here at the church?
Yeah. Okay. I am Alicia Weston. My husband is Stephen Weston. We're both on staff here. I'm a community life pastor, so get to do all kinds of fun things. No one knows what that means. You don't need to.
Well, I mean,
kidding.
specifically for today, Alicia she oversees outreach.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, that part of it. And then we have 3 girls, Kaya, who's 6, and Ellie, who's 4. And then we have a little baby, Indy, who just turned 3 months on Sunday. So, yep. So I'm fresh back from maternity leave.
And I'm technically still on maternity leave.
You are technically
Thank you
on.
for still doing this.
Oh yeah, I love talking about the Lily Initiative. So this is great.
So funny.
Yeah.
I love it.
My name is Annika Happett, and I've been at Evangel on staff for 5 years. As well, my roles have shifted over the years, but I'm currently the community life coordinator. So I get to help oversee the Lily Initiative and City Reach. I get to be underneath Pastor Alicia and her leadership, so that's been really fun. I have a husband named Sam. He's a pastor here on staff, and we have 2 girls, and Greta is 2, and Rosie is 5 weeks old. So
Seriously, 5
they
weeks.
are sweet and crazy. I love them. Yeah.
Annika, how did you and Sam end up together?
Oh,
Do you remember?
Are you trying to get credit?
I'm trying to gain credit right
course.
now.
Right.
You know what's
Of
funny?
course.
We just celebrated 7 years being
7
married, and so we were going through our hashtag happily ever after.
Yes.
And by the way,
I saw that and I thought, she has been consistent since her wedding.
yes, because that is a photo album for, however long that will last. My kids can look back on our wedding day, our engagement, all of that.
Seriously.
And I came across the photo that you took with us before I think you were like the guy who made sure we got out of the reception on time. And so you took like one quick photo before we left. And
That is awesome.
And so I looked at that and I was like, actually, I think Josh was the one who made this happen. So you do receive credit. Thank you for...
Matchmaker.
I'm not actually very good at matchmaking, so when it works out, I have to really make sure everybody knows.
But Sam will listen to you, so that's what I needed. I needed him to listen to you.
That's so funny.
That's funny. Well, I know a big part of our story is adoption. A big part of our church's story is foster care, and we could go really into just how we kind of had a burden and a passion for that, and how the Lily Initiative was born. And I have long-term memory loss, short-term memory loss.
Memory loss in general.
Yes.
Where did I park my car? Sorry.
It's true. So somebody else should start with the background of where all this began to transpire.
I wasn't even in the room. Who was in the room in the initial meeting? You guys?
Yeah.
Right?
So you mean I have to talk about
I think,
I
okay,
can fill in the details, I know.
Yeah, you remember. Why don't you just tell the story so I don't embarrass myself?
Oh, gosh. Okay. I think we had a one-on-one. And I just had heard you over and over and over again. You're always talking about kids matter and families matter and healthy parents matter. And I think I finally kind of said, can we just do something focused, like specifically for healthy families and kind of meeting that goal? And you have such a heart for adoption and kids that need homes and need families and even spiritual parents and all of that. And so that was kind of, I think, where the idea was birthed, is maybe the thought of, like let's test the water, see what's out there, what we want to come up with, how we can actually support our church. There was a bunch of families that were even doing it already. And I think one of the stories too that I had heard was there was a family in our church who was doing foster care, and they ended up letting their license go just because it was too overwhelming. There wasn't enough support. And to think that they were being the hands and feet of Jesus, but didn't feel supported in it and didn't have, the resources that they needed, was really hard to hear. And so I thought, we can do better.
Yeah.
So
the fun connection was, remind me of her name, Klinsky.
Yeah, Laura
Lee. Who had a legacy of foster care and adoption, and
recognized by the state of North Dakota for how many kids she fostered.
Where was she with her husband before he passed, correct?
Yeah, she was doing foster care with him. He died in a farming accident, and then, as a single lady into her 70s, she was still doing foster care by herself. Really a legacy.
And so she, before this meeting with you guys, she had passed away, maybe a year before or something like that. So you guys were in this conversation about, could we do something for maybe foster families specifically or adoption specifically? But there was a but, and it was like, but the budget is already set and we don't have the bandwidth to do this budget-wise. And how long after did this, who talked to the daughter? Was it you?
No. It was Pastor Josh, but I remember you kind of saying like, hey, we'll come up with a rough budget of what you think it would be to even launch something like this. Like, what do you think we would need? And sitting down and kind of trying to gather some numbers and do some research, and came across this like total and kind of, across the table, here's the total, here's what we think here's what I think it's going to cost to launch this. And then having this gift come in, which you can talk about, and it being like literally.
Yeah, exactly. Do you want to talk about?
Yeah, Annika, why don't you just tell everybody what is the Lily Initiative? And we'll describe like where the name came up from and stuff. But for people that are like foster care, something.
Well, we got to finish the story first.
Well, no, because we're talking about giving money to something that people don't know what we're talking about. Like, what was the vision of it?
Okay, I'm going to finish the story first, which was the daughter came in of this woman we referenced and said, hey, shortly after this conversation, and said, hey, we just wrapped up my mom's estate.
So Lori passed away. And they had wrapped up her estate.
And she said, and she wanted, was it a tithe?
A tithe.
A tithe of the estate to go to specifically the church, but even more specifically for efforts through, right?
To help vulnerable kids.
To help
foster
vulnerable
care
kids.
Adoption, yep.
which I think is like the most goosebump moment, right?
Yeah.
it was
And
cool.
it was kind of the culmination for us because I think every church has pet projects. Like there's certain things that you can bring up to a people that gather and they're like, yep, we care about that. And I just had noticed every time we would like give to a cause, if it was related to a missionary on the field, or if it was related to disaster relief, or if it was related to vulnerable kids, our church was just like, we'll do all the things, and we'll give whatever you need.
Yeah.
And so we had this moment of having a vision. We laid it out. You guys kind of give a budget in faith. And then,
Faith. But just how the Lord provided. And I think what a testament. I know we did the Live to Give episode talking about, giving of your time, talent, and treasure, where literally after she had passed to eternity, like her legacy of her finances lived on. And she will have no idea the impact that her planning and her generosity. And she
still
heard
talking
from
about
the
it.
Lord. And now it's impacting tons of lives and children and foster parents. So, so Annika,
I was in Israel with Annika and with Lori. We were sitting at the Dead Sea, and everybody else was like in the water and floating and rubbing Dead Sea mud all because it's so good for your skin.
That was me and Gnomes. She would hold me up, and then we'd dig the mud. It was great. Yeah.
Naomi's in the room. And so we're like watching all these people smear themselves in mud, and we're sitting in this big tent, and there's a fan blowing. And she just begins to unearth this story about foster care. And I just remember her specifically saying, we can't all do everything, but we can all do something. And her something, I was like, well, you did a big something for dozens and dozens of foster kids, and literally her life of service built the pathway for so many people to participate. So out of that really was birthed what we later call the Lily Initiative. So Annika, tell everybody what it actually is.
Yes, I will happily tell you. Okay, I'll let you talk about the name, and so I'll just talk about what that looks like now. So the Lily Initiative essentially is a support team that we've created of 4 different teams. So we have our grandparents team, which is like grandparent aged or maybe not aged grandparents, and they get to play the role as a grandparent to a lot of these bio kids within the foster family and the foster kids. And so they can pick them up from school. They take them to go get ice cream. They show up to their play or their baseball game. They're just like someone who's just consistent in their life and sharing Jesus with them in a relational way. So that team is really beautiful. And it's actually led by someone who's she's been doing this for years with one of our foster families in our church. And so this team was, I think, really inspired by what she had already been doing.
Yeah.
So, and that's Dana. She's amazing. I love her so much. I miss her. I haven't seen my team in so long. So that's our grandparents team. And then we have a babysitting team. So we have background checked individuals from our church family who had said like, hey, I want to help take care of these kids. I want to give these foster parents a break so they can go out on a date.
Right.
It's just short-term care. It's not like any overnights or anything, but it's just like, here's a few hours for you guys to go have a break. So we have that team, and then we have our family champions team, which is formerly known as our family advocates, but championing these parents and knowing exactly like what's happening in their life. How can we resource you? How can we support you right now? There's this common idea and understanding that there are a lot of foster parents who won't really reach out because they feel like they said yes to this and they don't want to be a burden to anyone else. And so just having a team member in line with them and just standing beside them and saying, hey, we're here for you. And this is like everything that we are capable and able to do, and we want to do it. So let us do this for you. So that's been really cool to see relationships grow with a team member and a foster parent, and just having someone beside them. And then we have,
Kari's team?
Yes, Kari's team, Meals and Errands, which this one is, I mean, we have a lot of support team members for this team, and they basically if foster care is just, it's messy, it's chaotic sometimes. It's beautiful, but like you might get an emergency placement at like 10 o'clock at night, and they might not be showing up with underwear or socks for the next day. And so basically having team members that are ready to go within a group me text and saying like, hey, can you pick up this Target pickup order?
Right.
They need shoes, whatever they need, they can run and get it, diapers, whatever. And then as well, we have a meals. It's the same team, but they have like freezer meals ready to go for them. They'll pick up, food, whether it's a Costco meal. I mean, just a home ready meal, whatever. They just are on the ready to serve these families. And it's been really fun to see like, oh yeah, I'm whipping up a meal. I can make a little extra and, drop it off at your house, whatever time you need. And if there's anything else, you just let me know and I can go pick it up. And so, those are our 4 teams. Yes, and prayer team.
They all.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
I think I love the practicality of this, where it's not these like lofty statements. It's very just practical needs being met.
Yeah.
And even, do we have an actual statistic of the burnout, or maybe like however long foster families would stay in foster care if they don't have support?
I think there's a myth out there, and maybe I believed it growing up, that like if you do foster care, you get this big check from the state. It's actually a way to like make a living by doing foster care. But there was a gap, right, that we realized was taking place. And so can you talk about that and maybe the myth, but then also the reality? I think you asked a question too, but.
Yeah. Well, I think what's the statistic? The statistic is like 75% of people burn out after 2 years.
Okay.
And then,
That's huge.
Yeah, which is crazy because you can go into it with all the heart and then reality hits and you realize that it's hard. I mean, a lot of times kids that come from vulnerable situations aren't often the easiest. I mean, when I go through trauma, I'm probably not very great to be around either. And so you just think, no, they need a lot of love.
And did you have foster kids in your home?
Yeah, so I think that's kind of a fun, unique part of my story is my parents fostered for 20 years. And so we had lots of foster siblings and they were on vacations with us and in lots of we have a different child in every family Christmas photo, which is kind of fun.
Yeah.
And so it's doable. It doesn't ruin your kids. If anything, it made me more compassionate to have an insight into just the challenges that people face in life. And gave me a lot of empathy, I think, for where I am. So I think there is like even what Pastor Josh is speaking to of like, there is a misconception that you get a big check. And I remember people thinking that even towards my family, we weren't exceptionally well off growing up. And so thinking, oh, that's why they're doing it. But knowing, even speaking to my parents about it now, that that's not at all the reality. In order for those kids to get loved and valued in our family in the same way myself and my brother were, in Christmas presents and family vacations and having store-bought clothes and not used and providing for the food that's on the table, all of the missed work that you have when you have to drive them to multiple appointments and all of that. It's a drop in the bucket for what you actually need to give. And so, and honestly, just like the pull from your own family as a whole. And so the support for that to kind of debunk that myth and then even, change the statistic, I think is huge. Those families need so much support and are so, they can be really overwhelmed at times and it's hard to find a babysitter. And everyone needs specific permissions, I guess, from the state as well for a child to go across state lines or for a child to be under the care of someone else. Everyone has to have certain background checks and paperwork and things filled out. And so in order for that to happen, you have to have a support system and a team. And it's so cool that we have that and are able to provide that for the foster families at this church too. So,
well, I know even right now with those checks that you can get for supplies and things that they don't always happen. And even like talking to one person who has, I think, was 2 babies at the time, foster babies in her home, but now I think is 3, where I think she said they spend $400 a month just on formula.
Right.
And they've had these placements since May. It's now October, and she still hasn't received a check. And just saying, so I think too, there's the reimbursement portion of the Lily Initiative to help offset these costs. Because she said literally without the Lily Initiative, we could not have kept these girls because we're a 1-income family right now. And just like how it's actually, these 3 girls have a loving home because we've been able to come and support them in this way. And I think people need to realize that, like, that's the difference it's making in the longevity and even being able to say yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, and even I always say we fail when we don't even talk about the parents whose children they've had to give up. You know, like when we don't admit that you can be going through a really hard season. You could lose a spouse and be in deep, dire depression, and all of a sudden your kids you're not able to give them the love they need, and they need something. And sometimes it's kids like that end up in foster care, and that the church is able to still love the parent, that it's not just, a separation from the parent, that the reconciliation is in mind, and the heart is also for, the biological parent, and how to love them as well. And so, I think that's such a great extra.
Yeah. I think the beauty of the Lily Initiative, just the birth of it, was we had this workshop. We have been working with Backyard Orphans, like an incredible organization. And they actually came up and we got to sit down. We invited we invited a few of our foster families and people that we knew would be passionate about this. And the foster parents in the room, we literally just said, what do you want? How would you feel supported?
Right.
We don't want to create teams just to create teams. We want to be very specific as to what you would actually use.
Right.
And so even at our last equipping night, Pastor Jenaye was there, and hearing the stories of what they've walked through, but also this is what I look forward to using. This child in my home would really use some one-on-one time with a grandparent. And so it was just cool to hear the roundabout of we were here sitting in this room last May 2021, and now we're sitting here, and it's these families are using it. They're excited about it, and it's actually meeting a tangible need. If we're not meeting tangible needs, then what are we doing?
Right. Exactly. Yeah, I was supposed to speak at that. Yeah, that didn't happen because you made me listen to all that before. And then I went up and I just cried. I literally just cried. I was like, you all are the heroes. We suck. You guys are amazing.
But you encouraged, and that's the whole point of the equipping
through
night.
my tears. I encouraged them with my tears.
It was so great.
But they are. I do think they are the unsung heroes of the faith too. And I think there is just a sweet, it's not for this, but there's just a sweet reward for them in heaven of just well done, And I think you guys talked about the myths maybe that you've run into with foster families, not wanting help or being I got myself into this, I'm going to persevere. I think that's North Dakota culture too, a little bit. Mm-hmm. But what have you found? Because we announced the Lily Initiative, and then we had a goal of a number of families. Maybe you guys want to talk about that. Mm-hmm. But maybe what kind of conversations have you had with people around what stops them from saying yes to fostering, or, if they don't feel like fostering's right now, how could they get involved with the Lily Initiative on one of these teams, or, maybe talk about that.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay, well, everyone can do something, just like what I had said.
Yeah.
And so that's whether if you're called to, I think we're all called to actually take care of the orphan and the widow. That's
Yeah, you have to talk about the name.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, we have to get to that.
There's so many things to say.
I know.
Ultimately, you can, you can join, if you're here at Evangel, you can join the stream team and support them in this way. Or you can, there's so many different levels of fostering, not levels, but different ways you can foster.
Yes.
So before we got pregnant, actually, with Rosie, we were in the process of becoming respite foster parents, and we put that on hold.
Can you describe what respite is?
Yes.
Yeah.
So respite is purely when foster families need a break. It's not just babysitting. It's you're taking care of the kids over a weekend or sometimes an extended period of time, depending on, the situation. And so there's that, or there's short-term care or long-term care, emergency placement care. And I'm probably forgetting another one, but there's a variety of ways that you can take care of these kids. And so if you're, for us, we thought for our schedule and for our family right now, respite care would probably be the option that we could go with right now. And then maybe we would, a lot of people start in respite care, and then they work towards long-term, or they have a respite child in their home, and then they don't want to give them up because they love them. So
And you can hold multiple too. Like you can do long term and switch to respite or be doing respite and then it rolls over to long term. So there's like lots of things.
And if you're listening to this and you are a part of Evangel, the Evangel family, and you are in foster care, like if you're fostering and you are not utilizing this, do it. I'm talking to you, Megan and Jake Thomas. No, it's actually been an open conversation. Every time I see Megan, I'm like, have you reached out to Annika? Have you reached out to Annika?
I had no idea that they were
I know.
becoming
They're very
licensed.
close to getting
Almost
licensed.
done.
So
Megan,
I said,
I will
you need
find
to
you in
Yes.
January.
They know I love them. They know I'm not kidding. They know I'm not, but just kidding.
I forgot the rest.
But
of your
I think,
question.
what?
I forgot the rest of your question.
But just, okay, you were talking about respite, so I
Yeah.
wanted to describe that. But, the response you saw, like the goal in families and
Yeah,
kind
the
of what does
goals.
that look like if they're like wanting to ask questions or whatever?
Yeah. So we started off with about, I think like, I always say like 15 to 17, mainly because I can't remember which number it was at that point in November of 2021 when we
So that's
launched
many
this.
foster families we had in our church that we knew of.
Yes, that we were aware of, those that have like, been really a part of the Evangel family. And so we had the goal of, hey, wouldn't it be great if we got 30 foster families, like 15 more, let's double it, within the time. And I think it was early spring or beginning, or not early spring, late spring, beginning of summer, we hit 30 foster families.
Yeah,
And
before the year was over.
Before the year was over. I was like, this is
Set a new goal.
amazing.
Okay.
Yeah. And I have no idea, how many are actually now still in the process of becoming a
Right.
licensed family, because it takes a while to actually become a licensed foster family.
I literally have people walk up to me in church and say, hey, our thing went through. And I had no idea they were in the process.
Right.
And they're like, and they just,
Yeah.
they're so excited about it all the time. People just walk up and we'll talk about it.
Right.
Yeah. But I think currently we're sitting at 33 foster families.
It's
So
amazing.
who knows where we'll be in November of 2022. So
Yeah. Which will
Right.
be a year from
1 year since we started the Lily Initiative.
It
next
isn't
month
even
is
a
1
year old.
year,
Isn't that
and there's
crazy?
33. That's amazing. And I think
And how many team members? Sorry.
Yes.
Like
I think about like around 65 team members.
support.
That's amazing.
Support.
I mean, seriously, our church just like came alive when we unleashed this thing. I would just say to any church leader, like if you're hearing this and thinking, could I do that in my church? Like we would highly recommend working with Backyard Orphans.
Yeah.
They really helped us build the framework.
Yeah.
And then if you have
100%.
somebody on your team who just like here's your passion for it or carries a passion for it and they can start building a team. We launched this to our church over Legacy Makers Sunday. And it was like astonishing how people joined dream teams and the meetings that we were having. And I mean, hundreds of thousands of dollars came in like a matter of months just to support it. And we literally were like, I mean, seriously, foster families, please like let us know what you need because so much came in.
Yeah.
And we did big
Yeah.
Christmas gifts for families. And it's just been one of those things where it's like you hit a passion spot in
Right.
the heart of the, and I think, like we said, the
It's-
Bible
it's
is
a biblical command.
the Bible is rich with commands that say, "Look after the orphan." What you do to the least of these, you're doing unto me. I mean, you can just go through. God cares about this topic, and when we work on what God cares about, God starts to work in a greater way.
Yeah.
You know?
And I
than
love
we could.
even the number of foster families in the church at Evangel where one, I know I had to make the hard decision in a life season to say for right now, this placement we love dearly, it's just not working in this season.
Yeah.
But then another foster family from the church
Yes.
took him in. And so you still see that sweet little boy going to eKids and consistency in church family and like just how that's huge. Like you will not know the impact of that for years to come.
Yeah.
I
Even,
think-
I was just
you
going to
talk.
say, even like there's a whole piece of confidentiality about, any of the stories and the children that are even, in these families. And we won't know. We will not know all of the
Exactly.
stories because of that piece. And that's okay because we're going to see it all unfold one day and it's going to be amazing to see.
Yeah.
I would just love if we're here for another 20 years and someone comes up to you, and is like, hey, thank you. When I was 6, I was, in foster care and I came here. I haven't been back since then. Or something like that where you're like, oh.
I just have this dream that one day they say the churches in Bismarck have taken care of every kid
Yeah.
You know, like
really
every base is covered because of the Lily Initiative. And there's other churches in our community that are passionate about this too. And
Right.
I think there's certain things that the church over time has delegated to the state and said like, yep, they'll take care of that. Like, and we see somebody foster and we're like, good for you. How sweet of you. I would never do that, you know? And if we don't say it, we like remove ourselves and we kind of think, oh, it's the state's job or, you know, the system's broken. That's their fault. And I'm like, I think there's some things, I know there's some things that Jesus never intended the church to
just pray
delegate
about.
Right.
to the government or to just pray about. Like the mandate is do it.
Or play a part. Play your part. You do have
Yeah.
a part. I guarantee you.
Like
You
even
do
to
have a part.
respond to the Lily Initiative by saying, I'm going to pray about that. No, if you're inspired to pray about it, that's probably already the confirmation you need to do something. Because what is there to pray about when it's in God's word and it says, do this, do this,
Yeah.
do this.
But yeah, there are just certain number of things you can only do while on earth. And this is one of them, you know? So
Sometimes pray about it is like, I'm going to pray and hope that God says
it's
no.
the Christian way of saying no,
It's
isn't
the
it?
Christian way of saying
It's
no.
like the joke. Sorry. Okay. Yes. Pray about your decisions. We're not saying that.
No, but it's a
yes,
command.
it can be.
But if you actually pray about it, then you're probably going to end up doing it.
Yeah.
Yes. Right. Or
Not just say
playing
you're
your
gonna
It's
part.
in line with scripture. So.
Right. Exactly.
Or play your part.
And I think too, us walking through adoption, you know, I think that was it for me. And it did shift my philosophy on adoption and foster care, where my philosophy, whatever, you can search scripture for this, but I think it should be a yes. And you pray and say, God, you stop me if this is not right. Or if this is not what you have for me. Rather, we assume it's always a no. And God, you give me the green light. Whereas biblically, it's a yes.
Right.
It's a yes and amen. But
Yeah.
so I would say too, I would love to see the church shift our mentality as the global church in that way of what if it's like, no, Jesus is saying yes, and I'm going to champion you, and I'm going to open doors, and I'm going to make it happen because I care far more than you even realize about these children and these widows or whoever, those in vulnerable situations. And so, I mean, we never saw prayer answered as quickly and efficiently as when we pursued adoption. And even in that, you have to be approved as like a foster parent first before going on to it. But
Right. Yeah, I was thinking like if somebody showed up at your home and said, hey, I want to do this thing to your house. And you're like, I don't think I want that thing done to my house, you know, but if they showed up and they said, I want to do this thing and it lined up with something that you really cared about and you really wanted done, you'd be like, wow, okay, like what can I do to help you?
when can
you
we
know?
start?
Yeah, when can you start? You free now? And I think when you align yourself with something you know God cares about, like the Bible says, God is searching the earth looking for people, you know,
Right.
and when you align yourself under, here's what I know God cares about, and I'm going to get under that. I think we just saw with adoption and now with the Lily Initiative that God will open the floodgates of heaven. And I know some stories are more difficult than others, and different people have walked through different journeys with adoption and foster care. But when I think we really step into that gap, when God has sent us to be Christ's ambassadors on the earth, he does something in a church. You know, he does something in people's hearts. And I think that's where this was birthed from. We just felt the mandate of this should not just be delegated to the government or to other people to do. Like, we have a stake in this. Our church is already responding every time we bring stuff up. And so we have a daughter named Lily. And I always thought, but I had heard myself start saying, like, yeah, what if we emptied the foster care system, you know, in our county? Or what if, whatever that means, you know, however that's possible, what if we took care of it, you know? And they just knew, hey, we're just going to call Evangel, you know, they'll make a way. And just started hearing myself say that and hearing our church respond and just thinking, how could we build this? Alicia's a great staff member in that. I remember actually that meeting because she came to me and she was like, here's a few things that I hear you talk about kind of on repeat. Am I right on? And which one do you want me to pull the trigger on? Which I think just to commend you, like there's so many people that want to come in and say, here's what I want to do. Please.
Here's my vision.
Even we do that with the Lord, right? God, here's my vision for my life. Please bless it, you know? But to have somebody come in and say, hey, I'm hearing where your heart is and I want to help make that happen. And I said, yeah, that one. And, you know, we ran with it. And I remember just being in scripture and really praying about it. And it's in Matthew. I don't even have the verse in front of me, but Jesus is looking out over the harvest, and he says to the disciples, look at the lilies of the field. He's like, they're crowned in beauty. Like, there's nothing more beautiful than these lilies. And I remember God just in that moment, like, speaking to my heart. And we've always talked about how Evangel is such a great harvest field. Like, we stand on the shoulders of great men and women of God who have gone before us, and now we're in a season of just like getting to win souls and run the race pretty unhindered. And we thank God for that. And I remember thinking that harvest is so awesome, and there's so much to do. And I just remember God speaking to my heart in that moment and saying, but what you do for the lilies, like these children are the lilies, and what you do for them is going to be a crowning jewel, far and away above anything else that you do, And so I think that's where for me, it started to be birthed out of, like, I want to do something to honor my daughter and her journey, but I also, I want to grab a hold of God's heart, really for these kids. And it seems to me like he takes children and he sets them above and says, care about the kids, let them come to me.
Yeah. Did you find the reference?
I was trying.
It's 6:28 through 29.
Oh, thank you. See,
I was like, I think I read Matthew 6 this morning. And,
that is so the
pretty sure it's Matthew
Lord.
6.
It was meant to be.
Yeah. I think one thing that we didn't even mention is like how often churches tend to pick up projects for adults, like prison ministry and human trafficking. And I think we had done a lot of those like humanitarian efforts.
Yeah.
And then hearing the statistics of like, all of these things are a byproduct of vulnerable children.
Yes.
And if we love and disciple the vulnerable child, like you are inherently protecting their future.
Well, and I think even the church has been, the global church, floundering in a way where, yes, we are pro-life. We are for the life of the unborn, but standing outside of an abortion clinic is going to do, I'm sorry, that is not going to do anything. This is going to do something. Like, for even someone, I hope if there is someone in a vulnerable situation that finds themselves pregnant and they end up in our church doors, that they could see an example that they will follow through with that pregnancy, because even if they can't keep the child, they see loving people who are ready and willing to take that child into their home. And I just remember when we were going through adoption, I met with like probably 5 or 6 women who have adopted, who were in foster care, adopted through that way, many different things, and just asked them questions. And one, when we were talking about like the why of foster care, she said, you have to be willing. Yes, the whole goal is reunification. That has to be your goal. You can't go in with any other motive. But she said, just think if you and Josh were driving and you got in a car accident and you both passed, but your children all survived. And yes, maybe you have a plan and a will and people that would get them, but temporarily, in the meantime, they would go into a home. And who would you want them to go to be with? Like, if you would want a great, loving, amazing home for your children to go, like that, like, why would we not want to provide that for other people in their time of need? And, and just, I think too, I want to challenge the listeners too in that of actually praying about it. And maybe you have the gift of giving and you can support ministries like this. You have the flexibility to run errands, or like, that's a challenging statement to you of like, no, I would want a home loving and the quality home that I bring for my kids, for other people too. And and we've even talked like, man, is fostering a part of our future? Is adoption the only part of our story? I don't know what.
I joke a lot, like, nope, no more kids. We're done. Like, I'm overwhelmed. But I know in my heart we would never close the door because of what we've already
I always
preached.
say, we're biologically done. Amen. Shops closed.
Shouts.
But I remember holding Lily in the hospital and looking at Josh, right? I looked at you in the NICU and I said, we can never say we're done having kids. Like, after this, you never can say you're done, because you can be 65 and God says, you're going to do this. We have a couple in our church. How old are the Lovens?
Well, yeah.
Older.
Yeah.
They're young in heart, but they're older.
And they've taken on and brought so many kids into their home.
And not just kids, like medically fragile
I know,
children.
I was thinking of respite care and just people. I mean, some people are bringing kids in who were born very preemie or are on oxygen. I mean, it is like going from a lot of people, you have time to prepare to bring a baby into your home, like 9 months to think about it, but with some foster families, it's just like overnight, that situation changes.
Yeah.
But you brought up one thing that I am so grateful for and proud of, honestly, is because you brought up abortion. And I remember when the Roe v. Wade decision came down,
Yeah.
and there was all of this just ballistic talk of the church says they, love the unborn, but they hate the born. They don't take care of them. All they do is preach about abortion, and then they never show compassion. And I was like, well, that's not true at our church.
Right.
Because it's after they're born. It is kids that are in difficult situations. And I think that's our mandate. And I'm so thankful for, and I'm not celebrating myself. I'm not even really celebrating the people around this table. I'm celebrating the people that are in the trenches right now,
100%.
making it happen.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Exactly.
I agree.
Yeah.
I think if you are listening and you say, man, I want to help, there are dream teams that are available that you can help with if you contact us, and
Can we put like a link in like the show
we
notes?
can make it happen.
Yeah, we'll put a link to something.
We need
in the show notes.
We've never had show notes where we
show
can say, that'll be in the show notes.
Well, there is always show notes. There's always notes of the podcast.
I'm just going to start to say it now. You can find that in the show
Oh
notes.
my goodness.
Everyone else says it.
Some form of a description. There's something going to be there to help you, even if it's an email.
I think also, I know there's people that respond to this and say, you know what, right now I can give, and there are families, like Jenaye said, that they're able to keep babies in their home right now, kids in their home because of the Lily Initiative. And so if you want to give, we'll give you a way to do that as well.
Can I speak towards that?
Yeah.
Because I'm the lucky sucker,
Right.
as we all say on staff, of like, this is probably going to be the part where I cry. I'm 5 weeks postpartum, so I have every right to.
We did place bets before this that Anna could be the first to cry. So.
I don't think you were sitting here and we placed bets on it though.
But when you have a 5-week-old
No,
and you're
I think
passionate,
I
it's not
think we
fair.
would cry no matter what. I think
Yeah. Yeah, well, that gave me enough time to compose
Yes.
myself, so
Good,
thank
great.
you.
Good.
But
I think it was this last spring, one of our foster families they were still in the process of becoming licensed, and there's a laundry list of things that you have to, check off for your own home in order to become a foster family. And I was the lucky sucker who got to fill out the PO for reimbursement checks for this one family. They needed to, in order to make a space within their home, they had to build a bedroom for their foster kids. And this check paid for an egress window. And putting in an egress window is not easy. like these people are committed. They're literally chiseling away from the foundation of their home so that they can put in this window, make this beautiful bedroom for now this teenage girl. And it was just so satisfying to just be like, you get this. I feel like a bro. You get this. You get this. You get a car seat. Yes, you get more diapers. It was just, I think it's been such a privilege. And it hasn't even been a year, but it's been such a privilege to be on the side of I know what this foster family is walking through and this will meet their need. I know what this foster family is walking through. It's just such an honor to be a part of a church family who is like, you need this? Sure. Here's the check. Here's the money. No problem. Not, and it's not anything, I can't say that our church family is just like, oh, here's the money. But they actually carry the heart because just giving away money to some people is I think it was Mother Teresa who was sitting on an airplane with someone and she had just said with this person next to her, he just wrote her an outrageous check and was like, oh, it's no skin off my back. And she wouldn't accept it. And so I just know that we don't have those people in our church. Well, maybe we do. I don't know of them because the people that I'm seeing are they're in it and they just carry that heart. And so
it's not passive support.
It's not passive support. And I just know that I went to a foster family's home before. It was the last thing I did before my maternity leave because I was getting induced the next day. Yes. And I was like, I need to go to their home. I want to hand them this check because this I know will mean so much to them. And it did. And it was just impactful because they have sacrificed so much for these kids to be in their home. And they're not asking for anything, but they just simply are giving. Yeah. And they have the heart of, wanting these kids to be reunified with their families. It's not possible. But just knowing that they're there and they're ready. They're, a part of a church family who truly does care for them.
Yeah.
And so I just, again, I'm grateful to be a part of a church family who's just like, let's do it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And didn't we even, was it a city reach or what was the project where we like redecorated the visitation room or like added to the
Yeah.
visitation
Yeah,
room?
the county
Is that
visitation room.
Oh, where is that located at?
It's downtown.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if it
Yeah,
was like
not
at
Grape
the
Street.
Capitol or like where it was. I don't know. Somewhere in town.
Yeah.
But even just that where it's like, yes, it's about the kids, but it's also about the families and the reunification
Yes.
because those visitation rooms, weren't they kind of like depressing?
Yes.
Well,
They just needed updating.
yeah, they needed
Sorry.
updating. You needed quality, like you needed a place for a mom who had to give up her premature baby
Yes.
to go and sit in a rocking chair and hold her.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
right.
You
That
know?
the time visitation time could be sweet and
Yeah.
like add something to it with the environment.
Playful, like toys.
Toys
and
to play with
it's
their
inviting,
kids, you
yeah.
know?
But what I love about that was, I mean, we didn't really have a huge hand in that. That was one of those opportunities where we had actually our team captain, Leslie Piercy. I love her. She's
Yeah.
She's
like,
amazing.
Go get her.
She is. She's
Yes.
amazing. I look up to her so much. She's a single mama who's fostering. She's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
she has her hand in all these things, and she's great. But she and Mary Kay Lapp, they like completely, they just did it. They bought the furniture, they bought all the toys, everything, and then they just gave us receipts and done. You know,
Seriously.
and it was just a huge need that was meant just
Yeah.
for like our community as a whole. It wasn't just like the evangel foster
Right.
families. It was for the community.
Right.
That's beautiful.
So that
Yeah.
was a really fun project.
Yeah. And I think those that are involved, like at Evangel, Call Evangel Home, that foster, that's who can be involved with the Lily Initiative. Is that correct? I don't want to like lead anyone astray with that too. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I love too that we opened the church for, I think Leslie once was hosting like was it like a regional foster
She still is.
family
Yep. Yeah.
meeting
Yep.
where it's like they're foster families where they can get community and come together that don't go to the church. And I love that. It's like so much more than just being attached to a church name. It's about the global capital C church.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I just love the opportunity to equip the saints to do the work.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I love that the churches have always been about foreign missions, but this just brings missions home.
Right.
yeah.
You know, it takes care of your own backyard, and I think that's so powerful
sure.
too. If you want more information about the Lily Initiative,
Yep.
you can go to lilyinitiative.com. I was gonna say org.
I always think it's
Really
.org, but it's not .org.
Dot
It's .com.
Dot
com.
com.
The
Yes.
Lily, that's one L in
Yes.
lilyinitiative.com. And you can get a lot more information there. So
Yeah.
thank you guys thanks for all you're doing and for getting this started, for building a great team that is running it. Thank you for being passionate about it. And I just can't even tell anybody who's listening how much this has created in the heart of our church, you know, and how people have responded. It's been so cool and so awesome. And to our community, it means something, you know,
Right.
it's not just for us. And so
Yeah.
thanks for doing that. If you enjoyed today's episode, then you can share it with a friend. That'd be awesome. Or like it or subscribe, and you'll catch the next one as well. So thank you for listening today and for prayerfully considering and saying yes when God asks you to step up and take care of a kid in need. So we'll see you next time.